It's such a pleasure to welcome you, Professor Tripathi, to our university, Plaksha University, and welcome you to Mohali as well, because we have just joined. We have today Professor Anil Kumar Tripathi. He's director of IISER Mohali. Before he joined, he was at BHU and he was director of the Institute of Science at BHU. He spent 40 years being an educator and being a faculty member at BHU, and now we are so privileged to have him in our neighborhood as the director of Indian Institute of Science Education and Research in Mohali.
Thank you.
So welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a great opportunity for me to apply and deploy all my experience which I had at BHU, and also I was at director of a CSIR laboratory in Lucknow, Central Institute of Medicinal Aromatic Plants. So all this experience I will have the opportunity of deploying at IISER Mohali. But it's a great setting because plenty of institutions, excellent institutions are there. And I am so privileged, I feel so privileged to be at Plaksha and interacting with you, sir.
Thank you so much. You know, it's absolutely an honor to have you. And we are looking forward to so much interaction with IISER Mohali.
We too.
You know, we're just 10 minutes away from each other.
Yes.
Right. So many faculty members are already connected at our two institutions, and I'm very proud of that. So, you know, for today, I thought that we could chat a little bit about how do you see science education in India. You know, this is something which is very dear to all of us, right? The way India is poised to take off in almost every area, and you know, economically, GDP growth, growth of technology, companies. But, you know, underpinning all of that is solid science base of a country. And we know this from all advanced countries. So it's really important for us to reflect on this particular aspect, that what is the current state? How do you see the current state of science in India? Let's just start from there.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very important and fundamental question, because few days back when I joined IISER Mohali, in my address to all the faculty members, I told them that I started my career from a state university, then moved to a central university, and then to a CSIR lab, and now at IISER Mohali. And I told my faculty that you are so privileged to have the best of the possible infrastructure and facilities. And if you want to really realize how privileged you are, you should go to a college or a state university, and then you will come to know how deprived they are. This science education, the solid foundation of science education in India has been because of some of the excellent teachers we had in our schools. They laid very solid foundation of sciences, mathematics, physics, biology, etc. But over the years, what I have seen is that the experimental component is declining very fast. And if we look at that secondary school education to a degree college and then to a university, we really find that there is a dire need of equipping these institutions. And if I look for such a huge population of India and a lot of graduates coming out, the opportunities for them to learn experientially is very limited. We have very few institutions who are well equipped, whereas many of the universities, including central universities, they are not adequately funded. And they don't have that kind of infrastructure. During last few years, the government has pumped in a lot of money to create some of the facilities which they have been aspiring for. But I still feel that science cannot go on simply on theoretical basis.
Right.
It needs solid infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Students should be exposed to the instruments. They should have the confidence of using the equipments. So, and moreover, in the science education, we have been kind of very stereotyped. Because you had some of the best institutions, exposure of some of the best institutions, and you did not have privilege of, knowing the situation of,
That's true.
Colleges and the kind of state government situations. So the science departments are there, the faculty is not there. Contractual faculty is teaching.
Right.
And this is actually counterproductive, so counterproductive that it will have a very negative cyclical effect if you have incompetent faculty teaching to the next generation. And then you breed, kind of.
I agree.
So I'm sorry for this kind of negative picture. You started with a very positive note, but having been exposed to the larger system, I feel there is huge need for Government of India to strengthen secondary education and, for example, the college education. Because otherwise, most of the responsibility of training them lies on the institutions where they go for their PhD. But if they have that base, in our time, situation was much better, but gradually, since in every institution, the number of students
has increased
much beyond their threshold carrying capacity, the quality of education is going down. Teacher doesn't have the opportunity of eye contact with the students. And that applies even to the IISERs. Because the numbers are increasing. Government has compulsion. It has to
of course.
enhance the enrollment ratio.
But
But if we continue like that, the quality of education, I'm afraid, will have it all.
So, basically it points to this fact that while quantity is increasing in terms of number of student enrollments, throughout the country, and we see that very clearly. But the quality of science education, which depends on really good experimental facilities, that has declined despite our efforts. So this is a challenge, right? This is a challenge for all of us, educators. I do see it slightly differently that now, when you were a student or I was a student, we did not have access to so much technology as we have today. A cell phone that kids have today is a perfect instrument for taking readings, for capturing images, for doing so many things, because a cell phone has, 20 different sensors inside. So if we teach students somewhat differently, so that the lab, which used to be limited, to our school only or to college only, gets distributed, with a little bit of effort.
So you mean digital education kind of thing?
And also, taking advantage of what is readily available to you. Let's say if a science teacher can be trained, that how many experiments can you do just with a cell phone? So then students can do those experiments at home, Actually, that reminds me of asking a question, that is very dear to me. When I was growing up, the way I saw science, I used to think that, okay, we need to go to the lab to do experiments to see, you need prisms, all those physics experiments, And after I grew up and I did PhD, I realized that how much of science is every day around you. Chemistry in your kitchen, in your mother's kitchen, biology at your doorstep, the number of plants that even if we don't want to grow around us, insects, all kinds of animals that we see, we are lucky as a country that we have that kind of environment, life thrives here, at all levels, including viruses, bacteria, everything, So, equipping students somehow to see and connect with science around them, so that they start investigating themselves.
I think you have got a very, very valid and very important point, that we remain focused in the lab.
Right.
Actually, the real science lies outside the lab.
Exactly. Precisely.
Yes.
Precisely.
Yeah. See, I am just reminded of a couple of instances. Satish Dhawan, Professor Satish Dhawan, he was an alum of Punjab University. And he wrote an article in Resonance about flight mechanisms in birds.
Mm-hmm.
And I was amazed that a person of space science and this thing, he is, he has written such an article. The purpose was to see how a flying machine how a scientist can learn from nature to make different kind of flying machines.
Right.
And a few years back, I was in Prague, and in one institute of advanced science or something. So there I met an Indian girl, and I said that, what are you doing? She said, I'm doing PhD in mechanical engineering. I said, but what's your background? She said, I did MSc zoology. I said, how come mechanical engineering? She said, I specialize on insects.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are trying to learn from insects.
Absolutely.
What mechanisms can be used for hopping and other kind of machines. So this is how we have to look at the nature and try to engineer something which has all the experience of nature.
Right.
So I think there is a lot of it, but in our systems we are kind of made stereotype of the textbook and
precisely.
Yes.
Precisely.
So it is so bookish.
Right.
And I have always seen that whenever I had gone out of or into the nature, I always found something new.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. Absolutely.
So even C.V. Raman,
right.
He was
going
on the ship and found why sky is blue and sea is like that.
Yeah.
So yes, I think we need to go to the nature and try to start asking questions. And the questioning, which is fundamental of our tradition.
Right.
In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it's a question answer.
Right. Yes.
Between Arjuna and Sri Krishna.
Samvad.
But in most of our institutions, I'm not talking about the very elite kind of institutions, but most of the schools and colleges, the questioning is not allowed. And this is what is kind of killing science.
Yeah, that will kill science. Yes, science is based on, as you said, questions. Right? Yes. Curiosity, innate curiosity, exactly. And which is all around, about things around us. If kids started observing things, I'll give you an example. One kid asked me in Gorakhpur. Once, your place.
I have served there in Gorakhpur University for a couple of years.
Right.
Yes.
I gave a talk, and the student asked me that, what kind of thing you think I can do, when you are saying that observe science around you. This kid was probably in 7th grade or something, very young kid. Yeah. I said, why don't you have a tulsi plant in your house? Mm-hmm. He said, yes. I said, every day, take a selfie with a tulsi plant of yourself and see who is growing faster. Okay. After 3 months, you do measurements that who is growing faster, you or the tulsi plant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Take some time. So the idea I was trying to convey is that science is all about asking a question and going after observations. Right? Observe things meticulously. Write it, record it, and then you start seeing different kinds of answers emerging from that observation. Right?
I will like to add here that in my residence at BHU, there are tall trees. And during this fall season, a lot of leaves, they fall, the dried leaves fall. And when I go for a morning walk inside my compound, I see these leaves falling, and the trajectories are quite different.
Right, yeah.
Based on their shapes.
Yeah, of course.
So I was very much fascinated that how does the shape of this leaf, dried leaf, decide its trajectory of movement.
Right. Yeah,
And I
it's
think there will be a
aerodynamics.
lot of very useful information there.
Yeah, it is aerodynamics.
Yes,
You know,
yes, exactly.
So today, you see, that's my point.
Yeah.
That today you can make a video of that
Right.
with yourself.
Yes, of course.
You can
Yes.
play it in slow motion.
Yes.
You can see the intricacies of rotation of the leaves, and you can start imagining. You can't see the vortices that are formed, or the air flow pattern around it, which is what is causing this, right?
Right.
So, but you can start imagining that, and see, okay, what causes it to move like this? What causes it to rotate like this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that kind, that brings me to this question: that what are other ways we can excite students to take up science, right?
Yeah.
As a career or for their advanced studies? In our society, kids get very discouraged at some level that, you can't do science because you're not good enough. And this is all based on, books, exams,
yes.
nothing to do with their capacity to observe things, their capacity to ask questions, nothing to do with it, right? So what do you think we could do to encourage far more students to get interested in science?
Well, having been in this university education system for long, every time I interacted with the students, I used to tell them, don't get carried away by the exam results. Because exam is a single pattern which tests a certain set of capabilities, but it is not capable of identifying your unique capability.
Right, correct.
And therefore, never get carried away by your friend's performance, who has done well on those parameters.
Right.
Because the examination system has not been able to devise a system to identify your unique capability.
I agree.
So otherwise, the question was that this is the biggest challenge of the new education policy. And I think these aspects have been discussed, that give them as many opportunities as possible so that they can, identify in which trade, which skill, which discipline they are good. Earlier, our education system was very straitjacketed, but now it's loosening up. A lot of flexibility. For example, in IISER system, we provide a lot of flexibility. The IISERs were actually founded with this basic premise that let us try to create an ecosystem where students are attracted to choose science as their career.
Right.
See, if we have these 7 IISERs, which are very nicely equipped, and we have top-class faculty, they give the opportunity to students to, in a meaningfully address their curiosities. And that is what drives them towards the science.
Right.
Can we have more of such opportunities?
Yeah.
Universities, I see they are overloaded. In BHU, I was leading an institution, the Institute of Science, which had about 5,500 students. And if you look at the budget of the institute, it was a few crores, 5-6 crores.
Oh boy, okay.
So if that kind of poor funding is there, what are we doing with the future of such students who are opting for science? So it's largely because of the effort of the teachers that they are able to get something. But I think we need to hugely ensure that the universities have very nice teaching labs, and students are given freedom to use those instruments. And as is the trend these days, that instead of teaching, we have to create opportunities of learning, giving problems, find ways to solve that. And then that will give them opportunity of, exposing themselves to different areas in order to find a solution to a given problem.
Right. Yeah.
So I think for such a huge country, how this will be done, I can't foresee much. But I think our school education because we had excellent teachers who used to do a lot of motivation. And this motivation and ability, the freedom to ask questions is gradually declining, and that is what somehow our secondary education and the college education has to promote. And if those questions are allowed to ask and given some opportunity to address those questions, probably they will choose science as their career. Otherwise, the bread and butter question of bread and butter is the primary question.
Right.
And they feel that by doing science, probably they will not be able to do that because the opportunities, future opportunities are not. If large number of students are opting science as their career, what as a country we have to offer to them?
I think we should talk about it also at other fora. Science, choosing science as a career. So many of us who think that, more and more students should choose science as a career, we are looking at science as a field of inquiry.
Yes.
And we love that, of course.
Yes.
And therefore we think that students should come. But students themselves are thinking about a career first.
Yes.
Livelihood.
Yes.
Livelihood.
Yeah.
And in India, barring a few central government laboratories, right?
Yeah.
CSIR and ISRO and, DRDO labs. Other than that, the opportunities for science graduates has been somewhat limited.
Exactly.
Right? And that's one of the reasons, right?
Yeah.
Although
I think that's a major reason.
Yeah.
That's a major reason. I'm sure you would have realized if you go back to the history of science in America. I think in 18th century, there were very few Nobel Prizes which were going to US.
Right, yeah. It was all
And in 19th
Europe.
century, the whole situation reversed.
Right.
The reason was that they realized that they need to heavily invest in the science-based education, graduate education and postgraduate education, and development of the science-based technologies.
Right.
I know my realization is that the emphasis of US on high-end science and the technology based on high-end science, and there they are pumping a lot of money.
Right.
It's not as much as the education below graduate level. So they have seen that where lies the potential for, fueling the economy.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we need to invest heavily in science and science-based technology development. And then there will be a lot of job creation. But if we say, okay, we provide opportunities for doing PhD, then all our best of the lot goes to US and empowers the economy of the US and Europe.
Right.
So we have to see that our graduates, they empower our own economy. In IITs, in even IISERs, most of our students on whom we spend huge amount of money, they go out.
Yeah.
And very few of them end up returning. So we have to create opportunities so that after proving their ability, proving themselves elsewhere and in best of the best institutions, they come back to India the way you did. You have taken the challenge that let's do something in India.
Right.
I think we need many more such people. But this will happen only if we create opportunities for them.
Yeah. So I think as universities, it's also part of our responsibility to help society create opportunities for these graduates, right?
Yes.
Which I think, we will be, if we work together. And Plaksha is a tech university, right? I'm not worried about employment for my students.
Of course.
Because they will, I know. And the kind of education we provide, they will find employment. But, this idea that science graduates, science is the bedrock of technology.
Of course.
So, if science graduates don't get good jobs and if they don't get attracted to science, then we are really, staring at a bleak future.
Yes.
Right.
I fully agree.
So all of us, it's a responsibility of all of us, government, us, corporate, society, right? To see to it that our science graduates find really good employment.
Exactly.
And we should work on it.
Yes,
right?
of course.
Yeah. So I would be very happy, with Plaksha and IISER we can do programs together so that, they're also equipped. Your science students are equipped with certain technology,
Right.
right?
Yes,
Technology
yes.
education. We have so much of strength here in AI, machine learning,
Yes,
these
yes,
kinds
yes.
of technologies,
Right. Yeah.
That there is no reason why we can't, have students from IISER also benefit from this kind of training.
No, certainly,
right?
I know in IISER you are more aware than me because I'm here for a
Right,
few weeks then. So you can appreciate the strength of the IISER much better. But during this short time, what I've realized that we have some of the outstanding faculty members.
Yeah.
They have outstanding capability, which they have demonstrated and proven and established.
Right.
It's only a question of shaking hands.
Right.
And when Plaksha and IISER shake hands together,
Right.
our faculty comes and have tea and coffee together.
Right.
I think a lot of new avenues will emerge.
We will.
Yes,
We will.
and I think we have to increase those opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
We are on the same wavelength, and
Right,
it will
yeah,
make it.
yeah,
we
yeah,
will
sure.
make it happen.
Sure. Yeah.
One of the key things today in society we are looking at is attracting more women students in STEM.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
More
yeah.
women students. Also more diversity, I would say.
Yeah.
Right? Diversity from kids from not so privileged
Right.
families,
Yes.
villages, right?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't have even known anything about, science, how it is done, or what the future might look like.
Right. Yeah.
So to attract these kinds of students, women students more to science, are there any specific things that we could do? Today, see, at Plaksha, I'm committed to having 50% women in our engineering programs. We are right now at about 35%, 33%.
Right.
And this year we'll go to 36%, but I want 50%.
Right. Yeah.
So what do you suggest we do? Are there specific things that we could do to attract?
What I have seen is that in BHU, and earlier I was at Gorakhpur University, there also I have seen in sciences, there is a ever increasing number of girls or women, they are coming to sciences.
Okay.
And this is possible because I think it has become possible by giving them the opportunities, security in the campus, safety in the campus, and some enabling provisions in the school education. Because I think the school is a kind of a bottleneck where their enrollment has to increase. In villages, in the rural areas, when you talk about diversity, they have to take part in the house course.
Right, yeah.
And if they are given some kind of support or incentive to come to the school, then many more of them will come. But as such, I have seen in BHU, there were more hostels for boys and less for girls. Now the situation is so different that in research and in master's courses, we need more hostel accommodation for women rather than boys. So I think we don't have to do much except for providing them the safe and secure environment.
Excellent.
And they are very enthusiastic to come out and make use of their capabilities. Everywhere in most of the institutions of sciences, for example, here also I find that women are doing excellent. They are doing very well, and but inherently, as per the Indian tradition, here also they have some home-related things. And they go on family way, and sometimes their career or the pursuit of science gets disturbed. But I think Government of India, DST, etc. have launched many schemes to bring back women to the science fold, and many of them are coming back. So I feel that women don't need any reservation. They are capable enough.
Right, of course.
And we only have to create an ecosystem which provides them safe and secure environment and maybe some financial opportunities, financial support, scholarships. And as you were also discussing about the inclusion and diversity, again, everywhere we see that we have the provisions, financial provisions, scholarships, special scholarships for, taking care of the diversity. And I would just like to give here an example of grassroots innovation. There is a National Innovation Foundation in Ahmedabad. I don't know whether you are aware of that.
I'm aware.
Yes, Anil
Gupta. Yeah.
He has been doing padyatras and meeting people. And, I met him and discussed that he finds a lot of very, intelligent people in the remote areas, in the tribal areas,
of course,
who have been able to do it. And now you see, as in his sports, as government has tried to reach out into tribal areas, India success of India in sports is,
going up.
So similarly, we have to reach out, we have to create opportunities. And some of the, industrial houses, they have to have some special programs for promoting women, for promoting, people from the tribal areas, remote areas, creating some scholarships. And for example, if I'm here, because I got some free ships and some scholarships, I could reach here.
Right.
So otherwise, if huge fee, which is paid in many of the elite institutions, if I had to pay that, I would not have been there.
Right.
So I meandered my way through the possibilities, wherever I got scholarships or free ships, etc. And eventually I could make my way. I think that such opportunities have to be for as many people, as many students as possible.
Well said. The one of the things that you touched upon is that when we lose women along the way, in science career, right? We see lots of women today coming for PhD in science. Lots of them, right? You rightly pointed that out. But after that, if you look at the pipeline for faculty, positions or for scientist positions, so there is a drop. There is a drastic drop, which happens because of going, on the family way, as you said, they have to take. There, I want to point out something to you. That this is a natural phenomenon, and we won't be here if our mothers didn't give birth to us.
Of course.
But as a society, we are not training boys to participate in household work as much as we train our daughters. Right?
Yes.
So I feel like that's where the main problem exists. That even today, graduating students, boys are treated differently by moms than they treat their daughters. Right? Not training them for household work, not training them to cook, not training them to clean, not training them to participate in household equally, unless that happens.
I fully agree with you. And, in Europe, I have seen, my collaborator was there from France, and he was able to build a room for himself, paint the room himself. Because in the school,
they learned that.
They learned everything. But I think our schools are more bookish.
Totally.
Than giving the experiential knowledge. When I was a student, we had some, woodcraft and metalcraft, all these things we used to learn. All those things have now disappeared, I think, from the schools. Now, giving all this varied education to be self-dependent. Because these days, when the economy is improving, hiring somebody as a help for you is turning out to be the costlier. So it will be in the fitness of the things that in the schools, boys and girls are trained equally to handle everything. And not only schools, but I know at least schools, something can be instructed. Otherwise, in the families, we can only wish that these things happen, but it carries on with the tradition. And traditions change, but they take time. But at least in the schools, these things can be, this training can be imparted.
Even at the college level, at Plaksha, for example, we have life skill courses. So one of the life skill courses is cooking. And for everybody, boys must learn, girls must learn, everybody must learn how to cook for yourself, It doesn't.
Very nice.
So anyway, I mean, these kinds of initiatives, as a society also we have to take, it's not good enough to say that, we can get women into enrolled into programs, but we have to support. We have to show that there is a
Even if you have scholarships and other things, But if the family is not permitting,
Right.
they say first you have to cook and then.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
So I think this is
Starts falling.
Yeah.
We start falling short.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this lovely conversation.
No,
and
it was such a pleasure talking to you and visiting Plaksha and knowing these futuristic programs which are being launched by and being dealt by Plaksha